Morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to a Saturday. You made it to the weekend. I was going through my cell phone like most of you do, and I rarely ever look at this one online news cast called The Atlantic, but this was this morning. I don't know. Hopefully, you can see that. It basically says, you are likely to get the coronavirus. Have you ever in your life or your lifetime seen panic like this? Every single aspect of every single news and every single channel is dealing with this, is dealing with convincing you that you need to be fearful of what's going on, that you're going to eventually get this. Now, it's intriguing, and I did an entire show on this on Thursday. You can go to our YouTube channel right there on the front page of our website at thenutritionshop.net and listen to it. Because if you're just going to sit back and do nothing, you may have problems. Now, this study in the Atlantic goes through a lot of different things that goes back from May of 1997, a 3-year-old boy developed what at first seems like the common cold, sore throat, fever, cough persisted for 6 days, Hong Kong, and that was the beginning of the bird flu. Remember that? Which was a form of the coronavirus. That they killed all these chickens. There was a panic for a while. They called it H5N1, the avian flu, and pretty soon it was gone. A couple years later, we had SARS. It was contained, it was taken care of, and it went away. But it didn't go away. It became MERS, Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. And people got it and struggled, and it went away. But it didn't. So now we have the coronavirus, and everybody's panicking. They're saying that stores are running out of toilet paper and bread. The same thing that happens when you have a hurricane. Fear is a horrible problem. Coronaviruses are similar to the common flu. They both contain single strands of RNA. 4 coronaviruses commonly infect humans. 4, causing the common cold. So the odds ratio of you getting some form of this as it spreads everywhere are okay, pretty good. But if you protect yourself, if you're taking sufficient vitamin D and vitamin C, and if you go and listen to that show that I did, you know that there are ways to cover and protect yourself. COVID-19 is already reported to have killed more than twice the number that had been killed prior with SARS and MERS, which is about 1,000 people. Problem is where it started, which was in China. But it's the headlines everywhere. It's wreaking havoc on the stock market. And we discussed that last night over dinner and find that most of the parts for computers and cell phones are produced in that Hunan province. Now, I'm going to say another thing. This is no offense to the Chinese people, but I have been, as long as I've been with Nutritional Frontiers doing design works for them and the products that I do carry, that I have stressed over and over and over again. If I can't buy an American raw material, I won't do it. I will not take Chinese raw materials. I'm sorry. This is another example. So, pity big chains that buy 95% of their supplements you find on the shelves in those drugstores or big box stores are coming from China. I pity them because they're not going to be available. Not that I'd even want to take them. Containment's the first step, is what this article says. But it's another article that went out to enhance the fear factor that's going on in the country. So this is part 2 of my discussion on the coronavirus, and it's called, How Do You Deal with That Fear? Psalm 119 says, you're on the right path. Listen more to me and less to your doubts. I'm leading you along the way I designed just for you. Therefore, it is a lonely way, humanly speaking, but I go before you well alongside you so you're never alone. Do not expect anyone to understand fully my ways with you any more than you can comprehend my dealings with others. I'm revealing to you the path of life day by day, moment by moment. As I said to my disciple Peter, so I respond to you. Follow me. This is Leap Day. That is the Leap Day devotional for today. Fitting, is it not? As we start every Saturday show with Character Counts by Michael Josephson, I want you to think about this as you watch the news, as I guarantee you, you have a fear of something. Your 401k, your job, your supplements, your food. Are you going to catch this? Just look at what the panic was with buying all those masks that have now been shown to do nothing. Our values, the core beliefs that drive behavior, determine our character, our ethics, and our potential. Thus, the most important thing we can do for our children is to stimulate them to develop positive values that will help them become wise, happy, and good. But that's no simple matter. The first step is to achieve greater clarity about what we really believe and what we really want our children to believe. Often there's an inconsistency between what we say we value, our stated values, and what we actually value as revealed by our choices. We also need to recognize the complexity of our value structures. Our life goals are determined by our desires and wants. Another category of values concerns our beliefs as to what works. These often dictate what we do to get what we want. Still, a final type of value comprises our ethical views as to what is right. In a person of character, these values supersede all others. As my children are getting older, I've been thinking about constructing with my wife a statement of family values, expressing my beliefs about the nature and relative importance of a dozen basic matters. If you want to try it, concisely state the beliefs you hope to instill in your children regarding character and ethics. Thank you, Chick-fil-A, for my coffee this morning. Cup number 3. Did you see on the news this week, 3 cups of coffee black a day lowers your risks of all cancers by about 30%? Here's the study that I pulled to talk about fear. Now, before I even start this, we're going to talk about testing. We're going to talk about trying to identify what might be a weakness within you. But only you can decide what that weakness is. And this first article is talking about something called mindfulness. Mindfulness. What's mindfulness? Mindfulness is a state of active, open attention to the present. Not yesterday, not last week, not the past. This state encompasses observing one's thoughts and feelings without judging them to be good or bad. Just what you're feeling. Don't put a tag on them. To live mindfully is to live at the moment and reawaken oneself to the present rather than dwelling on the past or anticipating the future. Oh my God, I'm going to get the coronavirus. You may already have it. That little cough you had last week may have been it. Just went right through. And your body, as God created it, just responded. Mindfulness can also be a healthy way to identify and manage latent emotions that are causing problems in personal or professional relationships. Mindfulness is frequently used in meditation and in certain kinds of therapy, as well as Bible reading. It has many positive benefits, include lowering stress levels, reducing harmful ruminating, and protecting against depression and anxiety. Research even suggests that mindfulness can help people better cope with rejection and social isolation. At best, mindfulness is a tool that allows people to be more aware of their physical and emotional conditions without getting bogged down into self-criticism and judgment. Mindfulness, this study says from the University of Southern Denmark, has been shown to reduce negative emotions in both healthy individuals as well as patients with psychological problems. Studies have also shown that mindfulness is effective in treating clinical emotions like anxiety, depression, stress, and trauma-related disorders. The biological mechanisms that underlie these positive effects on emotional functioning are not sufficiently understood, but we are going to explain to you in a minute how you can actually put science to the task here. But brain imaging studies have shown that mindfulness training is associated with changes in the region of the brain previously known to be involved in extinction learning, making extinction a likely candidate. However, an actual effect of mindfulness training on extinction learning has never been demonstrated. So these are goofy words from people that work in that field. But they talked about people under continual stress, continual living in the fear of the future, and not quite understanding the past, which I witnessed a couple of weeks ago when my mother passed. Sure, we want to remember all the things we had for the last 60 plus years with my mother, but I didn't want to dwell on the fear of the future. It was amazing that one of the habits that I got into every day for the last, let's say, 15 years is at 7:30 every single morning, I would call her. And we had this morning time. Now, I didn't get along with my mother all the time, but we had an opportunity to talk about the weather, what she had planned for the day, how you feeling, and it gave me a chance to respond to her doctors at various times. But now it's gone. Am I going to dwell on that? Now, we talked in that first article about when you have these kind of emotions that get unchecked. It's a fear of the coronavirus, and you're letting it spin out of control. And you're buying toilet paper and Kleenex and bread and milk, and you're not going to leave your house. And you're going to live and dwell in that fear that the coronavirus is going to take you down. The odds are so small. But anyway, what's the first thing that's going to happen? As that article said, you see changes when you do an MRI of your brain. Something literally changes. Now, what's the first effect of fear unchecked? Memory issues. Your memory starts to suffer. A preliminary study by researchers at Uppsala University has found that when young healthy men were deprived of just one night's sleep because of stress and fear, they had higher levels of tau, T-A-U, a biomarker of Alzheimer's disease. Young, healthy men put into 1 day of fear, we saw structural changes in the brain. They isolated this in the blood when they had a full, uninterrupted night of rest. Study was published in the medical journal called Neurology. Tau is a protein found in neurons and a protein that can form into tangles. These accumulate in the brain of people with Alzheimer's disease. This accumulation can start decades before symptoms of the disease appear. Did you ever think about that? I remember talking to my mother about my grandmother who passed 35, 40 years ago. Kept her brain sharp to the end. And occasionally you'd know somebody in a family or a friend that suffered from what they then called dementia, but you didn't see Alzheimer's. You didn't see Alzheimer's at all back in the 50s, 60s, and most of the 70s. It's a relatively new disease. Why? We can all have our opinions. As we took prayer out of school, as we stayed away from prayer and we got more into this world and the worship of the earth, all these different things, more fear came into each and every one of us. More fear that's been untapped. Mindfulness. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this study, again, the 15 healthy, normal weight men with an average age of 22 put into fear, lost a night's sleep, and showed a structural change to their brain. So let's look in the rearview mirror for a minute. Let's say you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever. Let's go back over time. How big has fear been in your life? You may have been somebody from my generation that was drafted for Vietnam. I was. And praise God, I stayed on the medical side, but I didn't have to go. I stayed 1A for the whole time while I was in college. But I could have been called up in a minute. And we had a draft. My number came in at 234, so we didn't get quite that high. We made it up to like 220. Did I have fear? Yeah. Was I praying at that time? Probably not. So I'm sure that that's made an effect up here with me. And over the course of time, I've had fears back in my college days, taking my state board exams and going through so many life-changing things. Yeah, you had fear. But I'm drawing that into right now, right here, today. Do you have a fear of something, whether it's the coronavirus or not? Fear reactions were measured in this study using skin conductance, an index of how much the subject is sweating. These gurus in the labs now have ways that when you're put into a fearful situation, your body sweats. And again, that's the first sign of that fight or flight. Your body's getting ready to run. Cortisol levels are surging. Adrenaline levels are surging. Then the researchers extinguished these reactions by repeatedly showing images again, but this time omitting the shock factor. In this way, the participants learned that the images that previously signaled an uncomfortable shock no longer did so. After 24 hours, in order to test the retention of extinction learning, the participants returned to the lab, were hooked up to the shock apparatus again, showing the images they had viewed on the previous day, although no shocks were delivered. We were able to train the brain. Researchers want to move forward and investigate the underlying neurobiological mechanisms that are involved. These pundits in the labs don't really know. So, do you want to take a pill for this? Do you want to go to your doctor and get a little Xanax, Ativan? It's the most commonly prescribed drug for that, clonazepam. I'm sure a lot of you are actually taking one of those. You say, it really does help me with that anxiety and fear. You put a muzzle on it. You have a dog that's barking and you can't control the bark, you put a muzzle on him, right? But did the bark go away? It was just covered. But we're still going to be making changes to the brain. Now, I want to talk to you about this. This is a piece of literature that I played a part in with a lab that we utilize called Senesco. I've been asked to be on their board, and we share information together, and we've been doing neurolab testing now for probably close to 15 years. And over the last 4 years with brand new DNA testing, where we send a urine sample off to the lab, saliva samples off to the lab, and we get a pretty good picture of what's going on in your body. This is the results of a 7-year study collecting data. Optimum neuroendocrine health using an evidence-based clinical approach. A statistical analysis of over 700 patients, like you, like me, that may have had depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, lack of sleep, etc. And maybe you went to their doctors, maybe were medicated, maybe have fear that they can't seem to control. And when we get to that point in our lives, instead of just tempering it using a pharmaceutical, and I'll even put into that category a nutraceutical. If you're going to sit here and just pop nutraceuticals as well, which can be helpful, are you really fixing anything? So Senesco and their research group developed the methodologies of taking pieces of your DNA out of a urine sample that can identify the metabolites of your brain chemistry. On a normal calm day, first thing in the morning, we take a urine sample, send it off to a lab. And then we collect 4 saliva samples during the course of that day. In the morning, around lunchtime, around dinner time, and at bedtime, we send it off and we get a full-fledged analysis. And in the course of the last 7 years, I'm going to show you and read you just some of the summary statements. You can come into the office here or call. We can get you a copy of this. Let me just give you some examples. These are patients' results before and after treatment. What was the treatment? Not a pharmaceutical was used. We tested, we found out what the data looked like, and we used specific nutraceuticals to help control. A lot of practitioners here in this complementary world will throw things at you. A lot of the chiropractors, here, take 5 of these, take 10 of these, whatever. Patient quality of life measurement, anxiety. And again, they used an arbitrary scale. Before 3.52, on a scale up to 4. 4 being profound, 3 being severe, 2 being moderate, 1 being mild, 0 being negligible. 3.52, between severe and profound. That's the people that started this. They were tested, and after a period of time, they were retested. Their average score is 2.26. Symptom reduction, minus 35.8. I'm just going to go down the results. Vegetative depression, down 51%. Agitative depression, down 64.9%. Insomnia, down 51.1%. Poor sleep, down 46%. Moodiness, down 69%. Nervousness, down 63.7%. Fatigue, down 42.5%. Poor memory, down 42.1%. Irritability, down 52.1%. PMS, down 54.5%. Poor focus, down 40.8%. Headache, migraine, down 45.3%. OCD behavior, down 47.4%. Severity scores went away. It was profound when the data was put together. This is using what's called the Wilcoxon rank sum test. Science behind what's going on. So what's the takeaway message? If you're suffering from fear, if you're struggling, you may have a Bible in your house. Let me just make a recommendation. Randy Frazee, a amazing pastor, wrote a book called The Story, Going Deeper. It put the Bible into a novel format with little pieces at every single chapter to take you a level deeper. So when you're dealing with fear, you're dealing with anxiety, you can actually read in here. Psalm 142, I cry aloud to the Lord. I lift up my voice to the Lord for mercy. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him I tell my trouble. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who watch over my way. In the path where I walk, people have hidden a snare for me. Look and see, there's no one on my right hand. No one is concerned for me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. I cry out, Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my cry, for I am in a desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather around me because of your goodness to me. Share this with others, would you please? Tell them to quell their fears. I know it's easy for me to say, sitting here on a Saturday morning on a YouTube video. Hey, on Monday, just so you know, we're doing this YouTube thing every day, Monday through Friday at 12 noon, live. But you can go to that channel at any time and just get caught up, just like you do with your TV set. And just go to the thenutritionshop.net, and on the top page in a red box. Just click on there. It'll take you to all these videos. And we call it your daily dose. It's your daily dose of health talk. Once again, my name is Len Branswitz. I'm a naturopathic medical doctor and a board-certified clinical nutritionist and a pharmacist. And I do this show, and I have been. This is our 24th year on a lot of different venues, from regular radio to XM to Facebook Live to podcast to this. And we really like this. Just means I got to get a little more dressed up on Saturdays to do it. But on Monday, we're going to talk about what's going to be in the news a lot this weekend, I guarantee you. The first studies have come out of Georgia State University here in Atlanta on the universal flu vaccine. How about that for timing? So we will talk about the universal flu vaccine, what the preliminary results have been, and again, stress how important it is to take a task of taking care of oneself and your family. If you need help, give us a call here. We can set up a time. If you don't want to leave your house, we do what's called Zoom Internet, which is a simple way that you and I can go face to face and discuss whatever your issues are, any of those. Just give us a call at 678-228-8900, 678-228-8900. If you want to know more about us, go to thenutritionshop.net. Okay? Well, God bless you, folks. Have a great, healthy weekend. I'm going to try. Got lots to do. God bless you. Take care, and I will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.